What's up, everyone? Blake here. Welcome back. Welcome to my kitchen. This is my first live broadcast. We are going to be making orange juice today. Here is my hand press orange juice machine apparatus, and I've got a whole bunch of oranges in the sink over here. What we're going to do first is cut the oranges around what I call the belt, or you could call it the equator, but I'm not sure I really think the world is shaped like this. So I call it the belt, and then once we cut them in half around the belt, I'm going to put it in this big bin. We are going to process the juice into this little cup. All right. Once that cup fills up, we're going to put it into this gallon jug with a strainer on top, and then just rinse and repeat. Once we're done with each orange juice half, or each orange half, and we juice it, I'm going to put the spent orange juice halves into this large bowl. And so you can see I've got a little process going. So starting out, I've already washed all the oranges, and I have a double sink. If you want to look at my shorts tab, you can watch the short of how I make orange juice, and you can see that I have a double sink. I just use about four 4-pound bags of oranges in one go. That makes me about 4 quarts. I might need to top up a little bit with coconut water, and that's fine. But I put the 4 bags of oranges in the left side of my double sink. I wash them all off, and then once they're washed, I put them into the right side of the sink. Reason I wash them is because, even though we're just using the juice, we're not actually eating the outside protective rind of the orange where any pesticides or herbicides would be sprayed. The way that this hand pressed juicer makes is the juice is actually going to commingle with the surface of the orange. And so either way you slice it, your juice is going to be making contact with potentially, the contaminants on the outside. That's why I give it a thorough rinse and a little scrub. It also allows me to see if there are any deformities and toss those oranges away, like if there's any rotting ones or that have a soft spot on them. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to chat along with you guys as I do these lives. This one had a little brown spot. Let's see if I can show it to you. Where is it? There it is. See? It had a little brown spot, so that prompted me to smell it to make sure it's good. It's actually really good. Okay? And you can actually see that there is a seed there. Let's see if the camera can focus on it. Maybe not. That's okay. We want to see that seed. That's really a really good sign. That means that it's less GMO'd, perhaps, potentially, and more of like a natural orange. If you guys have ever seen naturally grown oranges that are, I suppose they're not necessarily wild, but ones that aren't like commercially grown, we have a lot of those here in Florida, then you're going to notice that not just oranges, also lemons, limes as well, the different varieties we have here in Florida, the more wild trees are going to have seeds in them for sure, and that's what you want to see. Okay, so I just cut it around the belt, pop it into my big bowl, and we are going to repeat. I am currently on day 21 of a juice fast. And what I've noticed is that, I already did one long juice fast, which lasted 23 days, and that was how long ago was that? Almost 5 months ago, actually. Yeah, 4 or 5 months ago. And you'll learn a lot when you go on this juicing journey. In my first juice fast, I was trying as many juice recipes as I possibly could. I have this hand press juicer, which is pretty cool. It goes for about $50 on Amazon. I believe the brand of the one that I ended up purchasing is called Co-Z, or I suppose it's just meant to be said as cozy. And it's a solid iron, stainless steel. thanks to Amazon and Chinese manufactured stuff, I mean, we're getting these high quality machines for the low. I mean, $50 is a steal for that, especially once you taste the quality of the orange juice that comes out. It's absolutely amazing. And as someone who, even when they're juice fasting, they like to work out. I'm hoping that's you guys. They like to stay active. People, when they start doing a juice fast, there's usually a reason behind it. My first reason behind doing a juice fast was because I had injured my ankle and I did not want to gain weight. And I also wanted the ankle to heal faster. Juice fasting had been on my radar. I think I purchased everything. I have a Nama juicer as well as this hand press juicer. And I had the jars, I had everything. So I was ready to go. And I decided, hey, even though I wasn't planning on it, just like I wasn't planning on, busting my ankle or snapping my ATFL or whatever I did to my ankle. I saw my friend Dr. Lance, and we didn't take any x-rays or anything like that, but he tested it, and it seems to be fine. It's fine, but there is a potential that my cuboid bone is completely out of the position it's supposed to be in, and there's a way to snap it back. So I might find somebody who can do it for me eventually, but that takes kind of a deft hand of an osteopath or chiropractor to do it. I've seen it on YouTube, but sometimes life happens and you've got to adjust. And the other reason for doing it, besides not wanting to gain weight in my ankle injury, is I was curious. So maybe if any of you guys are curious, to do a juice fast, what ends up happening is whenever you just kind of throw yourself into something, no matter what it is, like I kind of randomly moved to Florida. I kind of, spur of the moment, not really spur of the moment, but I decided to enter a relationship with an amazing person. I decided to become a personal trainer again after my corporate job. I decided to go to Colombia. Some of the more spontaneous things that I did in my life ended up being like the most amazing things that I've ever done. And this is coming from a person who's not really a spontaneous dude. I mean, I can be if I want, but I've noticed that in my particular life, I like to be more structured, and I'm a little bit more risk adverse when it comes to finances and traveling and things like that. Some of these things can cost money, and I always like to be as wise as I can. And I'm somebody who's very easily amused. Some of you guys might think that that I'm a boring person or whatever, but I really just honestly chill, read, work out, wake up early, work. Now I'm going to be making a lot of content, so that's awesome. I'm going to be coaching you guys on juice fasts and raw foods and fixing your diet up. I've helped thousands of people in my personal training career and yoga teaching career. Literally, if you count all my one-on-one training clients, which are in the hundreds, and then all my students that have been to my classes, that's thousands. A lot. That's a lot. I was very, very prolific teacher in my 6-year career here around Tampa and St. Pete. I taught in Tampa. I taught in Clearwater, St. Pete, and this whole area, the Bay Area, is huge. And I taught in many different gyms, training studios. The number one thing, for all my clients, and by the way, my clients represent like a pretty good cross section of humanity, if you will. I've taught kids all the way up to my oldest client was 87 years old. All right, so now we just pop the orange half in the juicer and see if I can scooch it back so you can just see a little bit better. There you go. Okay, see how it's face down or fleshed down. All right. See that? It's not nice and juiced out. Some people double squeeze it. Not really worth the squeeze, haha, because what ends up happening is you get more cross contamination with the outside and it actually makes a mess in the cone. And I will show you in a minute what the cone actually looks like. Actually, I'll show you right now. But just from one squeeze, you get a little bit of juice, okay? Now the cone itself is just comprised of these little holes. So when you squeeze the orange, all right, and I have a mat down here if you see it dripping, so, you know, like to stay clean. But when you squeeze it down, the juice just goes through those holes, and the holes catch the big pieces of pulp, like this right here. But when you double squeeze, way too much pulp gets jammed in the holes, and then it clogs it up. And if you guys saw me, I'll show you again. Let's do it again. There you go, flesh side down. You saw the nice little seeds in this one. These are actually good oranges. Bring it down, squeeze down, boom. Okay. Whoop. There you go. Pop it in there. And then as I kind of wiggle and twist the cone, more orange juice is dripping down, all right? And that just keeps the cone clear of juice and pulp for each subsequent squeeze. And I'm really highlighting the quality of these oranges, guys. The seeds, the juice. Smells very good. They smell fruity. Okay, sometimes oranges, they have a light yellow color and they have kind of a bland sort of taste and sensation to them. Okay, these ones have a deeper orange and they smell fruity. Okay, they smell citrusy, and whenever the word that I like to use is tropical. You know, whenever I come across really good quality fruit, it just has this X factor to it that has like a tropical note. You know, I found some wild bananas a few times here around Florida, just growing naturally, and they were the smaller variety, kind of like a Manzano apple, a Manzano banana or an apple banana. Okay, but I'm sure it wasn't exactly that breed. And then also I saw some really interesting ones. I won't say where I saw them, but they were at a public place where maybe I shouldn't have sampled them. But hey, between us, I did. And they were actually red colored bananas. And we looked it up later. And that's actually the original strain of banana, are like red colored. And they had seeds in them. Okay? And even the ones that I found wild here, those small ones I was mentioning, I don't think they had seeds in them, but they both tasted like really good, fruity bananas, and they were delicious. So I'm just wiggling this to let the juice drip down into my cup. And the reason why the juice pools up a little bit, okay, is because sometimes there gets to be pulp around the little drainage holes around the outer rim of the cone. Okay, that's why you're going to see in a minute, after we fill up this cup, maybe let's do one more orange. And I'm going to have to rinse out the cone. Okay, so that's kind of like a good flow that you can get into when you're juicing. And you can see that I'm making this live when I'm juicing, because I always thought that, you know, I should find a way to film when I am doing all my meal prep, guys. And I don't have the best setup for doing like a talking show like this with a full with a full setup for like my salads, my zoodle bowls, my guac, my smoothies. So I'm still kind of brainstorming on how best to film with my galley kitchen here. It's not the best filming setup. I really want that open, big kitchen layout with the center island or the center L shape. So now, guys, I'm just rinsing the cone. I'll give you a little before and after here. All right? So there's the before, right? You can see all the pulp stuck in the cone. Now I'm just going to give it a little rinse. And voila. There is no more pulp clogging the cone. And cheers. We have about 16 ounces of juice. Let me give it a taste. Oh. It's different every time. You know, there's every breed of orange that you get, or strain, or whatever the word for it is different. These oranges almost have a mandarin-like tanginess, or tangerine-like tanginess. Still very sweet, a little bit tart. And some oranges have like a thick, frothy, milky backbone to them. This one is a little thinner and cleaner. I actually prefer when it's a little bit thicker. But this is still very good, okay? All right, so don't worry, this orange juice is all for me, okay? Sanitation first. But there's pulp in there, okay? That's why we pour it through this strainer. Wonderful. Look at that. Cool. All right, we got AJ. What's up, AJ? Anthony, what's up? Wesson, what's up? Thank you so much, you guys. Cool. Make sure you guys check out the videos on my main channel. All right. You look at all the YouTube advice out there, and everybody has different conflicting advice. This is what I would be doing normally, is like talking to myself, like more so in my head, sometimes out loud. But when I'm prepping, and this meal prep stuff or juice prep stuff, it takes a considerable amount of time. And I'm trying to get really good at this YouTube stuff, guys, because I want to help as many people as I can. The diet is the number one stumbling block. That's what I was saying about my personal training career. Even the fittest, most CrossFit people, the most yogi people, that eating will catch up to you. Okay, it's not age that catches up to you. I'm 39 years old, all right? And I knew deep down that it wasn't age that I was feeling, why I was feeling bogged down, and that I had to work harder to get the same results. And I feel like I manifested being able to do this lifestyle, because trust me, I was a animal product and cooked food monger before, you know, coming into the raw lifestyle, but I had to work up to it. Okay. And now I'm here, and I wouldn't look back. Everything is on easy mode now. Okay. So here's the leftover pulp. See how much pulp is in there? All right. Now it's up to you what you want to do with the pulp. Obviously, we're going to rinse out the strainer because we can't have a clogged strainer. I'm just looking around. Sometimes I have a spoon handy. Here's a spoon. I'm going to show you guys what I do. Okay. I am on a juice fast, but this is the blurred line of juice fasting. I think pulp is acceptable. Look at that. Here, let's see if I can get a closer shot. I just don't want to drip. Oh my God. Oh my God, guys. That is just so good. Okay? And I see it in the gym because I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, and there are a lot of retirees around here. Okay? A lot of retirees around here. And the gyms that I go to are going to have some of those retirees. Okay? And do you think that they're not working as hard or not, doing enough? Oh, they definitely are, because every time I'm there and they're there. All right, they go to the gym more than me, and I see what they do, and it's sufficient. Okay, but they start to get thicker here. They start to get back here, kind of sagging. That's pretty damn tight. All right, look at that. See that? That's the fat starts to fill in there. All right, they start to get, where you can't see the chest definition anymore. See the chest definition? Okay. Yet they work out harder than me. They work out more than me. It's the food. And it's not calories in, calories out. No, 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 no. It's not. Guys. It's the food that you eat is mucus forming food. That's what the natural hygienists would say. That's what Arnold Ehret would say. And that's what all my teammates say. Because this raw food thing, this juicing, natural foods, living foods, we're on a mission, guys. Okay? If I can do it, anybody can do it. I am Mr. Protein. I am even a former avid fisherman. I loved catching cooks. Loved. Some of you guys know that. I have no desire to go fishing anymore. I miss going out on the ocean and being in my kayak, my little trolling motor, and buzzing around. So I might do that. But I put that baby away, and that's my baby. Her name is Cinnamon too, because Cinnamon 1, God rest her soul, she went to her next life. Yes, I name all my stuff. All right. So it changes you, guys. I basically lost 10 to 15 pounds. It fluctuates. I'm a bigger dude, so larger bodies you're gonna have more fluctuation. But for someone who was going 200 to now be going 185, 190 without changing a thing except my diet, and trust me, I get enough calories. I am juice fasting right now. Okay? But when you're not juice fasting, you're eating the salads, you're having the avocado, you're having the nuts. You're putting some flax oil on stuff. I use flax oil instead of olive oil for the most part. It's raw, it's cold pressed. At least for right now. That's what I think is the best. You can also use hemp oil. And the flavor's actually good. I mean, nothing really beats olive oil, but I've yet to found, or at least try and go down that trail to try for a really good olive oil, because I'm just trying to stay away from oils altogether. I want to get my fats from the whole food source. Coconut, avocado, walnuts. Walnuts, they look like a brain, and they are apparently good for your brain. All right. So the mucus forming foods, guys. Mucus is what the natural hygienists called it. Back in the day, we're talking about 1800s, 1900s, early 1900s, before the health realm was taken over by allopathy, which is what we have now, which is treat the symptom with a pill, pay your insurance, pay your pharmaceutical company, pay your doctor, who gets indoctrinated during his medical school or his or her medical school. Not all MDs are you know, on that vibe, but they kind of all are, unless they're surgeons. Okay? One of my best friends is a surgeon. He's a heart surgeon for the Navy. So can you imagine what he's been through and what he's seen in the OR, the operating room? Yet he is vehemently, adamantly opposed against what goes on with allopathy and pills for this, pills for that, shots for this, shots for that. Okay, so the naturopathic people said that there's only two causes of any sort of ailment at all. Okay, one is a mechanical failure, which could be an injury, okay, hence surgeons, or it could be genetic deformation, okay, or it could be loss of function, but instead of being a cause, it's the effect of the biggest cause, which is toxemia, toxicity. Like that System of a Down song, right? Love that song. Toxicity in our city, in our city. Why? Okay? And where does the toxicity come from? It's the foods, guys. It's the air and the water. All right? Okay, but that's a bit lesser to our control, and water's kind of an easy one. Just try to, at the bare minimum, don't drink tap water. Get filtered water, Next, don't drink water out of plastic. Next, do reverse osmosis or filtered water. Okay, next, try seeing how the hydrogenated water works for you. I'm not sure I'm totally sold on it, but, the Kangen water people with the hydrogen water, they seem to be pretty, on board with it, and they think that it makes them feel good. But I've seen so many of the people selling the Kangen water because it's a Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing, that they're not getting the fundamentals. They're trying to say that the Kangen water solves all the problems. But what they're not doing is frickin' exercise and frickin' eating correctly, or at least better. Okay, I'm not telling you guys to all go be raw foodists. I've always been the extreme one. That's why I'm the personal trainer. That's why I'm the one doing the ice bath and sauna. That's why I'm the one, going for a swim in the lake in winter in Minnesota. That's why, okay, that's what I do. All right. But if you can do 80%, okay, the golden ratio, 80% of what I'm showing you here, you're going to get incredible, amazing results, guys. Okay, amazing results. You guys like those beats? Pretty cool, right? Just checking on work. Okay, so just what I do is I distill my water, and then I add minerals back in. All right, just a little bit. Just a very tiny little bit, because another natural hygienist named Hilton Hotima, which is his pen name, he states that the cause of aging is earthy matter. Notice I didn't say earthly. The way that he spells it in his book is called earthy matter. He studied people who live long to try to find the commonalities amongst them. And what he found is the people that ate the most mineral poor foods lived the longest. Wow. What's going to filter out all the minerals you eat? Your liver and kidneys, probably. Am I wrong? No, ma'am. No, sir. So the more I get into this, guys, the more you start to learn the little intricacies. You know, I'm not sure we need to be blasting all these minerals and all this spring water. Some people don't drink any water, like Aris Latam. Okay? That dude's the man. He drinks coconut water. Imagine that. Okay? Not this kind of coconut water. Although I do love it. I do love it. He drinks the real coconut water in the coconut, from the coconut. So how cool is that? Very, very, very cool. Very cool, very cool. And that's how he gets his hydration. Because what the hydrogen water people, and I shouldn't really throw shade, but I did, and I'm not taking it back or apologizing. You know, I hate the commercialization sometimes of this stuff. Sometimes it's good because we learn, you know, and people got to make a buck. This is a capitalist realm that we live in. Notice I didn't say planet. Notice I didn't say globe. For real. So we gotta make a living so I can afford these oranges and this orange juice hand press juicer. Okay? But I'm just really not big into the commercialization of it, because what I've seen is people, it's like they don't even know they're doing it, but they tend to get so myopically focused that what they're doing is the end all be all, because they're just stuck in sales mode about it. Okay? I have lived as a non-raw foodist for 38 years. I'm now 39. Okay? And I have nothing to say if you make different choices than me. One of my best friends was talking to me yesterday about her cottage cheese that she mixes with barbecue sauce and puts on her chicken. And I'm just thinking to myself, you've got the mucus forming dairy that has been pasteurized and is completely filthy and gross. And it comes from a sick animal, it comes from a sad animal. You know, there's an energetic component to all of this stuff. It gets deep. It gets deep, guys. You guys might have seen the water study where there is evidence that shows that if we put loving thoughts into water, the structure of the water is beautiful. It looks like little snowflakes, little hydrogen molecules and all that stuff. If you put hate into it, it looks like it's in complete disarray and mess. Which one do you think is probably better for your body? I would say the pretty snowflake water. So you got to put love into everything. If you drink milk that's coming out of a sad, depressed, sick, drugged animal that shouldn't be captive in a disgusting dairy farm, what kind of crystallization are you going to see in that milk? Because milk is all water anyway. Almost everything. The way the world works is as above, so below. See how I'm just kind of helping the strainer drain here? Okay. How much of the surface is water? 2/3. Okay. How much of the human body is water? Should be about 2/3. It's not, because most people are dehydrated, but you know, milk is going to be a lot more water than 2/3. So what kind of, you tell me, what kind of crystalline formations? Is it going to be the formation of love and beauty, like a wild cow? Or disarray. I think disarray. So you're putting disarray into your body energetically. Not to mention any of the hormones, stimulants, pollutants, and the lack of enzymes because it's been pasteurized and boiled off. All right, now time for a little bit more orange goodies. Oh my God. All right, guys, sorry about that. Just checking in on work. Okay. So here's where we're getting. All right. We have a lot more orange juice to still make. Okay, this is kind of like my lunch break at work, but you know, I'm making juice and I still have my Teams bleeping off back there. So I still like to check in at work because I'm kind of a big deal. Just kidding. Okay, so we got the orange bowl about kind of halfway down. There's a lot still to go. So I'm gonna finish cutting these oranges, putting them in the bowl. All right, and then as far as the air, guys, oh my goodness gracious. Hilton Hotima talks a lot about that. And the book that I'm referencing is called Man's Higher Consciousness. That is a must read. If you read that book, and if you read, you know, kind of like the mainstays, which are Arnold Ehret's Rational Fasting and Mucusless Diet Healing System, and if you read Dr. Morse's book, I've read all of these. But if you read the Man's Higher Consciousness, kind of like back to back with Return to the Brain of Eden. Oh, this is a gem, guys. So if you're there watching, those two books will just open your mind and open your world to new possibilities, and will show you that our entire scientific model is built on theories, and it's kind of like it's built with straw. You know what I mean? Do you remember that fable? You build a house with straw, you build the house with wood, you build the house with brick. Okay? So, what do you do when you can't build a house with brick? In my opinion, you don't make stuff up and just go on theory. The truth of the matter is we don't know how humans evolved whatsoever. Okay? We do know some crazy things about how reality works that seem to fly in the face, and they do fly in the face of modern science. Yet it's just kind of like ignored. Like the fact if you put completely inert water, okay, distilled water, which I shouldn't say inert, because what you can do is you can actually charge your water in the sun. In Hindu culture, they would leave the water outside before bringing it in to charge up in the sun. How cool is that, right? So you can actually distill your water and put it in a jar and then go let it charge up in the sun. And that's going to do the same kind of thing as shooting happy love into it. Okay? But they would take this distilled water, like of the highest quality, like with a commercial grade scientific lab distiller. And I actually looked at those online. So I thought one day maybe I might try that. The problem with the distiller is it might be prone to leaching out, some of the heavy metals because the inside is all metal. All right. So I just Googled. I was like, do they have any distillers that are all glass? And I was like, ooh, they do have distillers that are all glass. They're $1,000 and they're made for scientific labs, but I'm gonna get one of those someday. Okay. So what you can do is, or what the scientists did, and apparently I've never tried this, but apparently this is repeatable, where you take completely inert, dead, distilled water. There's not even minerals in there. There's nothing in there. It's just H2O, literally nothing else. And then you hermetically seal it in a jar all the way up to the top. Okay, no air, no nothing. And hermetically sealed means just that no air or nothing can come in or out. All right? And the strangest thing happens when you look inside that jar of water that has been distilled and hermetically sealed, and it's just literally the water molecules. New molecules will start to form that have movement and look like little amoeba things. What the heck is that? That should be, for you guys listening right now, for me, when I found this out, that right there is game over. You know what I'm saying? That right there is game over. Life spontaneously generates. Once you kind of take that into your mind and you see how some animals can regenerate limbs and etc. Do we really know? Did we really evolve from a bacteria? Who knows what the frick happened? Are all of the animal types and even human beings, like at least our avatar, our vessel, is that designed into the background field of the universe for life to spontaneously come forth as such? Who knows, guys? Who knows? So the whole reason I'm saying this is because the natural hygienists were privy to this, and they knew because it was in their time that the takeover of science and medicine happened. For us, this was 100 years back now, close to. Okay, we're in 2025. That's 100 years back. And those who control the past control the future. Those who control the present control the past. History isn't true either. So, all right. Whether we know, which we probably do, and by we, I mean the knowledge does exist somewhere about how things kind of shook down in the past realistically, but what we've been told is incorrect. Okay, so once you open your mind to that's the reality that we live in, guys, that it starts to open your mind to the possibilities of, at least in my interest as a personal trainer, yoga instructor, somebody who went through a weight loss and glow up process in my youth. I'm just naturally interested in helping people and teaching things. And this is just the subject that I'm drawn to because I think it's a mission from God that has been given to me. That's my reality. And what you believe is kind of like your reality. So that's just what I think, because nothing else could be true, really. Just by logical deduction. So applying that knowledge to the health and fitness realm opens your mind up. And we need to have open minds about what is possible with your health and with your fitness. No shade on my family at all. No shade on my family at all. I love every single one of them. Whether they did me dirty or not. I don't even care. I don't hold any grudges, whatever. Love them all. I might go see them in a little while. And go up to Minnesota and see them. Who knows? But the men in my family at 40, I'm 39. Okay, this is not genetic. I am blessed genetically to be somewhat tall and have kind of a larger frame, but that comes with a curse as well, which is I'm an endomorphic body type. So it was very easy for me to grow to 300 pounds in high school. I also have, the bulk of my hair. It's not perfect hair. Okay? You can kind of see my natural hairline there. It's not perfect hair by any stretch. But I have freaking hair, dude. Almost every single one of my family members at this age was completely bald already. Talk about genetics. I have the bald genetics in my family. But I don't have that because of what's called epigenetics. Meaning my actions, my thoughts, feelings, and actions. The Holy Trinity. At least in that sense. Or the trivium. Intake, process, output. That's the circle of life. Born, live, die. Okay? That's the trivium. Beginning, middle, end. Okay? Think, feel, act. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions directly affect how our genes are expressed. Period. When you know that, when you know that there is an energetic nature to the food that we're taking in, this food, I'm putting love and good energy, and I'm teaching and I'm sharing my wisdom and my experience with you guys. And I'm just so thankful for these oranges that are so cool because they have seeds in them and they're kind of like a different flavor. And guess what? What's very rare when you buy oranges in the way that I buy them, which is in the 4-pound bag, is a couple of these had stickers on them. And so I'm going to finish that little, segment of today's talk. That these oranges, believe it or not, are from Walmart, guys. Okay? We got to do the best we can do with the money in the situation we have to put healthy food into our body. We don't need to be a Whole Foods princess. I rarely shop at Whole Foods. No shade, no offense. If that's you. I go to Aldi, okay? And Walmart, primarily. And since I have a Publix like 90 seconds down the road, and then another one 5 minutes, and another one 10 minutes. They murked financially during the shutdown because they were an essential business. Who owns all the essential businesses? Yeah. Anyway, they raked it in, but yeah, so I don't really shop at Publix a lot. Walmart's Walmart. All right? We already know. But we all can't have organic farms in our backyard, guys. So you got to do what you got to do. And I just thought it was so cool that when I looked at the sticker on these oranges, that they are from Morocco. So I just thought that was really cool. Some people might say, don't, no, you only eat food that's grown near to you. Whatever. I'm doing the best that I can. This is not perfect. Okay? We talked about the water quality. Even more important than the water quality, the number one most important thing is our air quality. And that one's kind of an easy one too, okay? It's just difficult. It's an easy one to understand, but it's a difficult one to implement because, it takes money, it takes a commitment, and we all might not be in a situation to do something about it. I think water we can do something about. For the most part, all of us can at least buy a $100 distiller, right? And distill our water, or at least get a Brita filter or a zero filter. Although buying all those replacement filters after a while, you could have already bought like 10 distillers. Okay, buy a $100 distiller on Amazon and just use it. Feel me? Air is a little bit harder. Now trust me, I'm somebody who lives in Florida, okay, where the humidity down here is really dangerous when it comes to the growth of mold. Huge problem down here. And if you're aware, mold is one of the most insidious, worst things that can happen to your health. It's a terrible thing. Oh man. Okay, what it does is the body has to divert a certain amount of its energy. Remember, this is not caloric energy per se. This is like the life force energy, the prana, the chi, the shakti, the ether, life force, the vitality, the animation of God and spirit that's running through you. It has to divert a certain amount of its energy to always be mitigating the mold that's coming into your system. Okay? And the body needs to shut down or dampen the nervous system to a certain degree so that you're not always having the symptoms. Now, do you think it's good to be having a double whammy on your life force at all times? All right? You're always filtering out mold, so that's draining, I don't know, 5-10% of your energy. And you have to dampen your nervous system, and that's another 5 to 10%. Okay, so now we're at, like, let's just round it out and say 15%. So instead of operating at 100, just because you live in a moldy apartment, you're now operating at 85%. Now you can do things to detox yourself from the mold. You've got herbs, sweating, exercising, moving the lymph through the system, getting massages, but there's no helping it unless you move and find something that doesn't have mold in it. Okay? Now once you're in a place that doesn't have mold in it, one second. The orange pulp. Oh my God. That's ridiculous. Okay, so once you're in a place that doesn't have mold in it, all right, then you run a dehumidifier, you run an air filter. Okay, and that's how most people are going to be able to mitigate their problems. But that's not available for some people. Okay, I'm in an apartment right now that might have that problem. All right. In my mind, it doesn't, because my thoughts make my reality. One second. Okay, we're good. But I've felt when my energy isn't dampened when I leave. And I can smell like what happens, when I leave, which is I can smell like the residual smell on my clothes and my backpacks and suitcase or whatever. It's not good, guys. It's not good. Okay? How could I not smell it before? Oh, you just become nose blind. Well, let's look at what really is nose blind. That's the exact thing that I'm telling you of the dampening of the nervous system. Okay? You think you're not in the air just because you don't smell it? Oh boy, yes you are. Okay? But we haven't even talked about VOCs, which are like volatile compounds just floating around in the air, which is kind of like the same idea of TDS, total dissolved solids in your water. All the VOCs in the air floating around. You're breathing those in, and then a certain amount of your chi, prana, life force is diverted to always be filtering that out. These come from paint, building supplies, the flooring, the wood studs inside your house, the appliances, the carpet, the furnishings, the linens, comforter, pillows, shelves, books, everything. So what you have to do is go outdoors as much as possible, sweat as much as possible, work out, move the lymph regularly, and try to get an air filter inside the house and a dehumidifier inside the house and run your humidity. And I'd go less than 50% for me because I just want that extra layer of protection against the humidity here in Florida, but do 50, whatever works for you. It does cost electricity though. So be careful on that. Your electricity bill is going to go up once you start using all this stuff. But is that important, or is you're having 10 more years of life at the end of your life? Here you go. What do you think all these biohacking billionaires who think they're longevity experts would pay for 10 more years? Almost everything. Okay? I'm giving it to you for free. Because it's common sense. And most people don't have that. Because most people are... Right? Okay? That's common sense. Now, even that! Even living in a house where you did everything you could to eliminate the VOCs. There's no mold. You go outside regularly, exercise regularly, move the lymph, get massages, sweat. You don't use chemical cleaning products. You don't burn the candles that have chemicals. You don't use the chemicals in your laundry soap. All of that stuff, you're breathing it in. Say you got that perfect on lock. That's like my goal. That's my goal for where I am in my life. But I still live in the city. Okay? I live about, I don't know, 15 miles? If that. Probably less than that. From downtown St. Petersburg. I live about probably 25 miles from downtown Tampa. Maybe even less than that. Okay? And I live west of those cities. So when there's an eastern wind, when there is a wind coming from the east, blowing over those cities, cities are toxic with pollution. All right? Some cities are really bad. Like I think Boston, Chicago, New York, of course. Terrible. Terrible air quality. All right? So listen. You know, not to mention what those mysterious cloud lines are in the sky. Wink, wink. Okay? And whatever sort of barium, strontium, aluminum, phosphates, whatever, are mysteriously misting down upon us. Right? To a certain degree, we don't have control over, above and beyond all the measures that I gave you, we don't have as full of control over the air that we breathe unless we go to like the extreme, which is the air at higher altitudes. And in colder climates. Okay, the air becomes more alkaline. It becomes more negatively charged, or whatever. Don't quote me on that, but it becomes more full of life force because it's closer to whatever the ionosphere is. It's more ionic, active air. Okay. Now, the closest thing that I have to that, to this air, which is, they call it like ozonated, which, by the way, listen up. If you get an ozone generator to help you kind of like blast some of the mold and some of the bad smell, that really, really works. Okay? Really, really works. You just got to be careful. Okay? But ozone, all right, is O3, not oxygen, O2. Okay? But this air becomes more ozonated. You become less hungry. Your body adjusts to it if it's at a higher altitude eventually. And you can just climb forever. You just have all this energy. Why is that? Like I said, the closest thing that I have to that is the ocean. All right? When there is a westerly wind coming off of the Gulf of Mexico over all that seawater and kelp and everything else, algae that produces the oxygen, and then it blows up towards the beach. You know, why is the beach such a healing place? Yeah, the water. But I have profoundly felt that when I spend, because sometimes I go to the beach and I'm like just exercising, and rarely I will go to the beach to just kind of like chill, right? But I did that the other day and I brought all this juice with me, okay? And I couldn't even drink the juice. I wasn't hungry at all. And I'm like, is that what they're talking about? When you're next to this ozonated air, this ionically active air, you know, that's incredible. That's very incredible, guys. So we have been over an hour. All right. I'm starting to fill up on this OJ. I do have a meeting I have to go to. All right. But you can kind of see the process. And now you're starting to learn. Do your best to get clean air and water. But what you have the most control over is eating fresh foods that don't cause toxemia in your body. That is the number one root cause of basically all your problems, almost literally all your problems, even beyond health problems. Okay? If you can do that now, all right, then as you move forward, chronological time will have less of effect on the speed of your aging. And you will have a much more efficient and easy time staying lean, staying in shape, staying healthy, staying vibrant, because your body won't have to work so hard to be processing these foods that were not designed for humans to eat. These are called mucus forming foods. You could call them inflammatory foods. That's where the toxemia starts, and that's what bogs down your system. You know, now you're starting to run 90%, 80%, 70%. Let's get you back up as close to 100 as possible. All right? And then always be 100 until we peace out of this place. So thank you guys so much for being here. With much love, I will talk soon. Peace.